From the latest on Caribbean cruises to kosher safaris, pilgrimages to Jewish Eastern Europe, and award-winning wines and international cuisine in sun-drenched Tel Aviv. Sit back and enjoy the trip with the travel edition of the Jerusalem Post podcast.
Hello. Is that a bit too brief? Hello. Sorry, I'll start again. Hello.
I was waiting for our listeners to respond.
Both of them.
Absolutely. I did put it in the plural. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm hot.
Have you been watching the Olympics?
I have. Especially the taekwondo. I find that fascinating.
For the first time in my life that I can remember since 1972, I have not watched 1 minute of the Olympics.
It's timed very well at Tokyo because where we are in Israel, they're about 7 hours ahead. So while I'm supposed to be working, I can sit and watch the Olympics all day.
I'm actually working. And I only have to say that because my boss is listening to this podcast.
Mine will probably be listening. So my ex-boss to be.
What should one do with an Olympic stadium after it's been used?
I know they've turned some of them into football grounds and baseball grounds. I think 1 or 2 of them have been taken down.
That's interesting. The reason I mention this, of course, is because it's a travel show and because, tragically, we are not in Tokyo at the moment. I was taken back many, many years till the time when I was 17, and I actually stayed in the Olympic Stadium in Helsinki. Because what they did when it wasn't being used for sport in the summer, they would turn it into a youth hostel that was filled with thousands of people.
Oh, fascinating.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. And on top of that, the main ice hockey stadium, whatever you would call it, in Copenhagen, I also stayed in. When it wasn't winter, they turned it into a youth hostel. And so you'd see all the markings from the ice hockey, and they divided it all up into little sleeping areas. It was unisex, if that's the right expression. So lots of boys and girls doing what young boys and girls do when they go to these places. But it was really, really good use of space.
I know when they've built modern stadiums, they tend to put hotels now inside the stadium, and you can get a window out onto the ground. So I'm speaking from experience in England. Old Trafford Cricket Ground has a hotel where you can come out of your bedroom and watch the cricket. Bolton Wanderers Football Club, who were once a very great club, have a hotel called White's built into the side of it as well.
So if you have any ideas for multi-purposing stadia, drop us a line, let us know.
Must be time for the quiz now.
Certainly is. You want to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Question number 1. Which is the world's largest building?
And question number 2. Which movie was not filmed in Savannah? The answers at the end of the pod.
Lots of movies were not filmed in Savannah. It's a multiple choice question. You need to give the answers. Apparently, Tora, and My Left Foot were not filmed in Savannah.
Is this one of the bloopers that we leave in?
Gotta do it. Try again, David. Question number 2.
Question number 2. Which movie was not filmed in... Which movie was not filmed in Savannah? Was it The Notebook, Something to Talk About, Cape Fear, or Now and Then? And I promise the answers at the end of the pod. You're listening to the Jerusalem Post podcast, travel edition, with myself, David Harris, and my travel buddy, Mark Gorton.
When was the last time you were in America, David?
Before the pandemic.
It's been a while for me, I think. I'm trying to remember. Maybe about 8 years ago.
Wow. So I was travelling quite a bit to the United States for work. And there were certain places that you could get to no problem. So obviously New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA. But once you looked, also I should throw into that Miami, but once you looked beyond that, it was kind of hard to travel. For example, Boston, sometimes there were flights, sometimes there weren't. But what I've noticed of late is there seems to have been a real increase in flights from Israel to America despite COVID, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now.
I once went to America from Israel, and I stopped off in Philadelphia, just at the airport, and I flew with US Airways. But that service stopped, I think, about 6 years ago, after they were taken over by American Airlines. But now, American Airlines are back, and they've launched 3 routes in 2021, New York, Miami, and in October they will be flying to Dallas-Fort Worth.
Which is the first time there have been direct flights between Israel and Texas.
To find out more about it, we spoke to the American Airlines country sales manager for Israel, Jan Pullman-Lavi.
We're very excited that American Airlines, that we're coming back in 2021. Actually, we were planning to launch our comeback to Israel in 2020, but unfortunately, due to the coronavirus situation, we had to postpone our launch. During the last year, we have done a lot of analysis of the Israeli market, and we're even more happy that we came back with a much bigger program that we planned initially, and we're very excited to launch this year a few routes to the United States. Especially, we started off with New York already in May, and we just launched in the beginning of June our 3-weekly Miami service, and we're going to launch on the 31st of October our Dallas flight.
Why Dallas? Nobody has done Texas, Israel so far, so why are you taking the plunge?
Dallas, and especially the whole region of Texas, has done a great development in high tech, and we see that there's an increasing demand from Israel to the Dallas area and also to other cities in Texas like Austin, Houston, or San Antonio. The new route is an amazing opportunity to fly nonstop into Texas and also to be able to connect right away in the morning to destinations within Texas or in the western part of the United States. And there's also a great connectivity to Mexico and the Caribbean. And Dallas is an amazing entry point as an airport. So it's one of my favorite airports in the United States because the immigration is usually extremely fast. And the minimum connecting time in Dallas from an international flight is only 85 minutes. So that's quite comfortable for the Israeli traveler when they land in the morning in Dallas. We're going to land there at 5:15 in the morning. The Israelis will be able to catch right the first bank in the morning and to continue their journey either downtown to Dallas or to connect to any of our domestic flights. And from our Dallas hub, actually, we serve almost all of our destinations on several frequencies a day. I mean, even smaller cities see easily 3-4 frequencies a day. And of course, if you connect further to Los Angeles or San Francisco, there's even more than 10 connections a day.
What planes are you going to be using and how long are the flights?
We use different airplanes on our route. So a few words about our New York and Miami route, where we are deploying at the moment the 777-200, which is a wide body plane. It's one of the biggest Boeing wide bodies and my personal favorite plane because it's a very, very wide aircraft body and it has a great passenger experience when you sit inside. And the 777-200 has a business class, a full business class with live flatbed seats. We have a premium economy product on the 777-200, which is a great alternative for people that want to travel very comfortably from Israel to the United States, taking into consideration the flight time to New York is about 12 hours. To Miami, it's almost 14 hours. And Dallas is a 14-and-a-half-hour flight. In premium economy, our service concept is also much upgraded from the normal main cabin. That reflects in the catering, also in the amenity kits. We have Casper sleeping sets in business class and also in premium economy. And also the passenger can benefit from a 38 seat pitch in premium economy. when we look at our main cabin, we have quite big section of main cabin extra. These are the first 4 rows in main cabin that have a little bit more leg room. And these are the seats that most of our frequent flyers that have a status, that are part of our Advantage program, are being seated, or we offer these seats to our corporate customers as a benefit. And for Dallas, we're planning to bring our Dreamliner, the 7879, to Israel. And the Dreamliner is almost identical from the inside. So the passenger will not see such a big difference.
Jan, can you tell us about the onboard experience of American Airlines?
We've done a lot of effort in head office, in cooperation also with our Israeli office, to educate our staff about the Israeli market. So we internally have created a training program about Israel, about the country, about the cultural differences. So our crew and our staff on the ground, or our sales colleagues in the United States and all over the world at American Airlines, have the opportunity to learn what is so different about Israel, what is special about Israel, and get some sensitivity about our market. And so far, more than 15,000 people have gone through that training. And we also did a lot of effort to localize our flight. That means that our catering offering, all our 3 routes, are very much reflecting the Israeli taste. So we are very much aware not to serve openly pork or seafood items. And we have also a good variety of kosher meals in all classes. So passengers can book their kosher meals in both directions.
We reported on our news a couple of episodes ago, the routes between Tel Aviv and America are going to have more than 100 flights a week over the summer period. What will differentiate American Airlines from the other carriers?
We're not only offering a great product point to point from Tel Aviv into JFK, arriving there right at 6 a.m. in the morning, but also offering a great gateway for the Israelis to connect from JFK within the United States or to the Caribbean. There was also a lot of noise reported about our codeshare cooperation with JetBlue. With JetBlue, we offer almost 100 routes out of JFK, so that's a quite big network, and also a seamless connection. So passengers land in Terminal 8 in the morning, and they can seamlessly connect onto flights with American Metal Flight or with our codeshare partner, JetBlue. Our Miami hub is our biggest hub for South America and the Caribbean. And Israelis can seamlessly connect all over South America, all the way down to Chile, Brazil, also some quite interesting destinations like Suriname that we just added. And of course, all the Caribbean islands and quite popular destinations like Cancun or Dominican Republic. Also, our onboard product, we have one of the youngest fleets in the United States of all carriers. We have a state-of-the-art Wi-Fi that is working even across the Atlantic. So for business people that would like to continue working throughout their flight. We have live TV on board, and also our in-flight entertainment. We have even adapted to the Israeli taste. So board announcement, everything is in Hebrew. We have Hebrew speakers on board. And American is also part of the One World Alliance. So passengers traveling on American can, of course, connect and combine with other One World partners to continue their journeys.
Big picture, how is American dealing with the pandemic?
In the last year, I've seen so much innovation that is a great development also for our passengers. You might have heard we have a touchless check-in experience, so passengers can do everything on their app without even touching anything at the airport. They just scan with a QR code their boarding pass, and they can label their bags themselves, and they can put it by themselves on the baggage belt, and they go through security. We've developed a great app called Verifly to consolidate all the travel information. So even during COVID, where things are constantly changing, where can I go? What do I need? We have on the app the right features to show the passengers that they're good to go. And of course, we did a lot of measurements throughout the flight experience that our passengers feel safe. And that hasn't stopped, even though that in the United States, things are very much going back to normal. But we still enforce masks on all of our flights. We want our passengers to be safe. We are doing a thorough cleaning of all our aircraft at least once a week with a spray called Surface Wise 2.
Jan, before we say goodbye to you, please can you tell us how we can book flights?
We have a direct booking channel on aa.com where passengers can book directly their flight tickets. I think during COVID times, we have seen that a lot of customers seek the advice of their travel advisors. So I could also recommend go and have a chat with your local travel agencies. They might be able to help our passengers, what are the right restrictions, and give them the full picture of services. And of course, we have a Hebrew-speaking call center where people can make reservations.
Jan Pullman-Lavie and American Airlines, welcome back to Tel Aviv. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much, David and Mark. It was my pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for the opportunity.
American Airlines Fact File. American Airlines was developed from a conglomeration of 82 small airlines through acquisitions in 1930. On May the 6th this year, American Airlines launched new daily year-round services from New York's JFK to Tel Aviv using Boeing 777-200s. American Airlines' return to Tel Aviv is part of a new strategic alliance between American Airlines and JetBlue. On June the 4th this year, American Airlines launched a new 3 times a week service from Miami to Tel Aviv operating on a Boeing 777-200. The airline is the only US carrier operating this route. Evening flight times allow for optimal connections beyond Miami to more than 49 popular destinations across the Caribbean and Latin America, including Cancun, Mexico City and Bogotá. Launching October the 31st this year, American Airlines will be operating a 3 times a week service from Dallas-Fort Worth to Tel Aviv using a Boeing 787-9. American Airlines intends to offer pre-ordered kosher meals and kosher wine in each cabin on all its Tel Aviv routes. You're listening to the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. And now the latest news.
30 years after establishing diplomatic relations with Israel, Azerbaijan inaugurated its trade and tourism office in Tel Aviv, a preliminary step to the opening of the Azeri embassy.
Israel's Knesset gave initial approval to a bill that would allow the state to collect biometric data, including facial and fingerprint information, on all non-citizens visiting the country.
Israelis are travelling to the United States in increasing numbers. Experts put this down to Israel banning travel to numerous other countries, the extremely limited availability of rooms within Israel, and their very high rates.
Luxury tour operator iWorld of Travel will launch 2 kosher river cruises next year, targeting American travellers, sailing the Danube between Budapest and Passau, Germany in June and July 2022.
And now news of a new kosher hotel. The Wyndham Dolce Kosher House Hotel is being built right across the street from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Construction is expected to last until late 2022.
So continuing our little chat about travel in America, where is there in America that you haven't been that you want to go?
Gosh, so many places. I haven't been to any of the big national parks, but what my real love is old cities, old towns. So I love parts of Boston, for example. I haven't been to New Orleans. I think that's probably in my top 2. And the other one that I would put up there is Savannah in Georgia, just for the history, the fact that it was one of the starting points of America, the fact that you can still to this day see a lot of what it once looked like.
So not Las Vegas then?
No, absolutely no desire whatsoever to visit Las Vegas.
Should we find out more about Savannah then?
It's funny you should say that, because our next guest is Rabbi Robert Hass, and he is the rabbi of Congregation Mickve Israel, and would let him tell you all about that synagogue.
The third oldest synagogue in America, the second oldest house of worship in Georgia, the first Ashkenazic synagogue in America, and the first synagogue in the South. I am originally, though, from a place called Texas, which many people believe is a country, and it is. So it's a country in the middle of this country. And I'm from the very bottom, which is called McAllen. It's a area called the Rio Grande Valley at the very bottom of Texas. It's one of the 3 or 4 most important centers of Jewish study in the world. So I'm very privileged to have that background behind me. I grew up there. My family's been in that city for 100 years or more, and went to college at the University of Texas in Austin, which is a wonderful city. I was an elementary school teacher and then went to rabbinical school instead of law school, and my mom never forgave me. Then I was a rabbi in first Dallas, then Houston. My rabbinical school years were first year in Jerusalem, next 4 years in LA. And then I ended up as the rabbi here about 9 years ago. I did take a year off after my last job as I volunteered for American Jewish World Service in Kenya.
The synagogue is one of the most beautiful in the world, according to Condé Nast. Tell us about the building.
That's not accurate. It's actually the most beautiful synagogue in the world. But it's a spectacular synagogue. Yeah, just got to read the fine print there. It is the last neo-Gothic synagogue left in America. It was finished in 1878. There actually was a church right next to us that was completed in 1872, a cathedral completed in 1874, and our synagogue in 1878 using, I believe, the same architects. So they're all neo-Gothic architecture.
The Congregation of Mickve Israel is even older than the building. When was it established? And can you tell us a bit about how it was founded?
Our congregation was founded in 1733. So basically, a man named Oglethorpe founded the colony of Georgia in February of 1733. In July of 1733, a boat of 41 Jews arrived. It was the largest Jewish immigration to date. Most of them were refugees who had escaped from Portugal. They were caught as crypto-Jews. And then there were 2 German families. And in England, they didn't quite fit in. So the oldest synagogue in England, Bevis Marks, sponsored the trip for them to come here. So they arrived in on July 11th, so about 5 months after the colony was founded. And it was very fortuitous on many levels. So first of all, there was an epidemic that was destroying the colony. Some say it was yellow fever. More research recently says it was something else. And on that ship happened to be a very prominent doctor who had been the doctor for the Grand Inquisitor in Portugal. His name was Samuel Nunez. In exchange for him treating the colony, the Jews were allowed to not only become part of the colony, but were given full rights. So Jews have always had full rights in Georgia. We believe we're the only one of the 13 original colonies. So they got here, they got the same house like everybody else, the same garden, the same farmland, and they were required to serve in the militia, which sounds pretty reasonable, except for Jews were not generally allowed to serve at all. Only one time previously had a Jew served officially, and he had really had to go to great lengths to get that approval. But there was more, because Oglethorpe was a very enlightened person. So he really was very supportive of Jews moving here. The only groups of people not allowed in the colony were Catholics, because the Catholics of Spain controlled Florida and England controlled South Carolina. Lawyers were not allowed, obviously. Slaves were not allowed, and alcohol was not allowed. So actually, they had to allow alcohol pretty soon afterwards, because ships wouldn't stop in Savannah if there wasn't alcohol, because the sailors wouldn't get off. And of course, eventually Catholics were allowed. But when it came to Jews, there was nothing that said Jews couldn't move here. It was more of an understood rule. So by the time the leaders in England had heard there were Jews here and sent the note to Oglethorpe saying, don't let them stay, it was too late. He had already given them full rights. And we would become, a few years later, when another group of Jews came here from the same congregation, the largest Jewish city in America for probably 5 or 6 years.
As long as they never let the lawyers in. That's always where it goes wrong.
That's Jewish doctors, yes. Lawyers, no.
Visitors to the synagogue, what can they see?
Pre-pandemic, we would get about 11,000 people going on tours because we're actually a full-time museum and a full-time synagogue, a growing synagogue. So we're the only synagogue, we believe, in the country that does both. And so, and plus we'll have about 4,000 or 5,000 other people come for services or other programs. We have a museum with the 2 oldest Torah scrolls in America and 2 of probably the 5 oldest Torah scrolls in the world. We have the first letter from a president of the United States to a Jewish community. And plus we have more letters from presidents than any other Jewish community, or probably any other house of worship. We also have various other things. For instance, the first Girl Scout receipt for cookies. Pretty cool, because Savannah is the founding city for the Girl Scouts. And when Jewett Gordon Lowe founded the Girl Scouts, she chose 5 women to be the first Girl Scout leaders. And 3 of them were from our congregation. So 60% of the first Girl Scout leaders were Jewish. And the first Girl Scout cookies came from Gottlieb's Kosher Bakery.
Wow.
Because they won the contest with oatmeal chocolate chip. So we have that receipt in our archives. We have a certificate for one of the original Girl Scout leaders whose descendants came over on the boat. So we actually have members of our congregation who are descended from people who came over in 1733.
So I've done the museum. What else do I do with my weekend in Savannah or my week in Savannah?
Oh, if you've done the museum and our beautiful sanctuary, you've heard me sing, then you go home because basically you're now frustrated and depressed. But if you don't,
so if I do that at the end,
yeah, that's if you. Savannah is a tourist haven these days. It is a small city with an incredible. Before the pandemic, we were getting about 14 million people a year, but we're only about 140,000 in terms of the size of the city. So we get a huge number of tourists, a lot of bachelorette parties, a lot of people coming in for celebrations. It's a great place for a weekend or for several days because it's small and you can just come down and you just walk around. You can actually walk around with alcohol and just walk everywhere. It's one of the few places it's legal to do that in America.
We're on our way.
Come on now and I'll treat you. We got Savannah whiskey, Savannah bourbon. We drink alcohol here. And we also eat very unhealthy food. And I'm not just talking the Jewish community. I'm talking the whole community. You add Southern food, which is very unhealthy, to Jewish food, which is very unhealthy. And I am the unhealthiest individual on planet Earth right now. It's schmaltz and fried chicken. That's all I eat. But it's a great place. You got the history. You got the nightlife. There's so many things. There's wonderful museums. There's tours all the time. The city is geared towards vacationers, so lots of weddings. We're also a wedding destination, so you can actually rent our sanctuary for weddings. And everybody should come here. And the number one thing you should do is come to Congregation Mickve Israel. By the way, we were, and this is not a joke, according to Parade magazine, which is a very reputable magazine, the number 1 tourist attraction in all of Georgia one year. We have no idea how we got that. We're on this giant map with Mount Rushmore and, Golden Gate Park and Mickve Israel. Like each state got one thing, Grand Canyon and Mickve Israel, which are pretty much the same thing. So we're very proud of it.
I'm sure on TripAdvisor it says worth visiting just for the rabbi.
That's pretty much it. And we were I think we're number 6 or 7 on TripAdvisor. I don't know now, because if you add the rabbi in, we're definitely number 1.
A large number of our listeners are interested in traveling and keeping kosher. Can they do that in Savannah?
If you want to keep kosher in Savannah, you can. It's a little bit more difficult, though, if you want to go out to restaurants, because there's no kosher restaurant per se. But the JCC, which we call the JA, the Conservative Synagogue, and the Orthodox Synagogue all have kosher kitchens. Also, the Orthodox community, the Rebbitzin, owns a senior living center that is also kosher. We also have 2 big grocery stores that serve kosher food, so you can go to Publix or Kroger's and get anything. Also, if you want and you need meals, the caterer at the Orthodox Synagogue will get meals for you.
Where are you located? How do visitors get to you? And where can people get more details if you can get all of that into one answer?
The synagogue is downtown. So the downtown area is very small, navigable. You can go from one side to the other in 20-25 minutes. And we're at the far southern section of the downtown, right next to Monterey Square, which is a very famous square. If you've heard of the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, we're right basically across the square from that. So if you come to us, you turn around, you see the most famous house in the South, close to Forsyth Park. It's a lot easier to park where we are. And we have tours from 10 to 4 every day. And if you want to see the museum on the Shabbos, often we'll take people up there. Or if you need something more like a private tour, you just give us a call and we'll do that as well. You can get more details at mikveisrael.org. Let me spell it for you, though. It's Mickve, Victor Echo, Israel, in case you don't know, ISRAEL.org. And it's not mikveh as in the ritual bath, it's mikveh as in hope. So it's the hope of Israel.
Rabbi Robert Hass of Congregation Mickve, meaning Hope, Israel, from Savannah, Georgia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys come into town, I will take you out and treat you right. I can guarantee you that.
Not only do I want to drink with you, I just want to sit through one of your sermons because I suspect it will be the best entertainment in town.
I tone it down, though, but for you, I'll go all full-blown because I'm also a stand-up comic on the side. So I got to be careful about being too stand-up comedian-ish on the Bima. But yes, it'll be fun. I can guarantee you that.
Savannah Fact File. Savannah Hilton Head International Airport is serviced from many US hubs, and Air Canada offers flights from Toronto. Express buses take you from the airport downtown for $5 one way or $8 for a round trip. There's also a wide selection of taxis, ride shares and shuttles. There are many hotels in Savannah's historic district close to the synagogue, including Hotel Indigo, Hilton Garden Inn, Staybridge Suites, Holiday Inn Express and many other chains. There are several kosher eateries located between 5100 and 5500 Abercorn Street.
Sadly, we've come to the end of our little trip to America today.
But before we go, we as ever have a couple of thank yous and then those quiz answers.
A big thank you to Jan Pullman-Lavie from American Airlines.
And Rabbi Robert Hass from Congregation Mickve Israel in Savannah.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star review.
And any comments will be most welcome as long as they're positive.
And now the quiz answers, if David remembers the quiz.
Questions.
quiz questions. Question number 1. Which is the world's largest building? The answer is the Boeing Everett Factory airplane assembly facility in Everett, Washington, United States. It includes the largest building in the world by volume at 98.7 acres.
Now, you actually missed out a number there because it's the number that really counts, which is the amount of cubic feet that it covers.
Which is 472,370,319 cubic feet.
And question number 2. Which movie was not filmed in Savannah?
All of them.
And the choices were Now and Then, Cape Fear, Something to Talk About, and the correct answer, The Notebook, which was filmed just up the road in South Carolina.
That's it for this episode of the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye from me too.